The frustration that Wei Wuxian had been holding in finally erupted. Every time I kiss you, you're as cold as ice. I know what you're thinking. You believe that since we've gotten married, both emotionally and rationally, you can't avoid it. You want to fulfill the duties of a husband, but deep down, you don't like me touching you and wish to push me far away. Lan Wangji shook his head, his breathing slightly trembling. No, it's not like that. Wei Wuxian continued. What's the point of denying it? The truth is plain to see. You don't like me kissing. Caught off guard, Wei Wuxian was suddenly shoved backward with great force. As pain and numbness surged up his spine, his vision blurred, and he felt something pressing down on him. You, Lan Wangji, you! His instinctive cursing was abruptly cut off. Their lips met, pressing tightly against each other. He could feel the trembling warmth of Lan Wangji's breath at the corner of his mouth, and Lan Wangji's soft and uncertain eyelashes brushed against his eyelids. Wei Wuxian froze as if bound by a spell, and the person pressing down on him seemed equally stiff, so soft and so warm. Such warm breath. His Lan Zhan's. Wei Wuxian thought in a daze, his stomach churning with a subtle spasm, and it seemed as though all his strength had abandoned him. When he became a bit more clear-headed, he realized that Lan Wangji's body was also trembling slightly. Lan Zhan, is he nervous? That little old-fashioned, truly so old-fashioned, even during a kiss. Despite his cheeky thoughts, at the moment Lan Wangji pressed down on him, Wei Wuxian felt as if someone had grabbed his lifeline. He didn't dare move a muscle, and his legs seemed paralyzed, whether from cramps or something else. They simply wouldn't obey. The arm tightly grasped by Lan Wangji felt sore and achy, with 4 fingers curled up while the remaining pinky finger nervously rubbed against something. Even now, he also... Suddenly, Wei Wuxian remembered those nights when Lan Wangji would freeze up as soon as he got kissed by him. So it wasn't that Lan Wangji had no reaction, rather, he was too nervous? After a long while, Lan Wangji finally got up from on top of Wei Wuxian. Wei Wuxian breathed lightly, barely able to move his stiff fingers. Just as he recovered, an impulse to be mischievous surged to the corner of his mouth. He raised an eyebrow and said, "Is that all?" Lan Wangji was slightly startled, unable to say a word, looking somewhat aggrieved and at a loss, as if he had been gently teased. Seeing this expression, Wei Wuxian felt an itch in his heart as well as in his hands. His fingers, stirring beneath his sleeve, couldn't be restrained any longer. He grabbed Lan Wangji's collar, sprang forward, and forcefully kissed Lan Wangji's lips. With a loud smacking sound, the soft lips were lightly plumped up by his suction, taking on a glossy red tint as if they had been thoroughly bullied. This sight filled Wei Wuxian with a surge of affection, and, unable to resist, he lightly licked that soft spot with the tip of his tongue. Wei Wuxian curled his lips into a smile and said, "Little old-fashioned, dare to kiss like this." Lan Wangji felt as if his very soul had been sucked away through his lips, entering a realm of complete emptiness and transcendence. Seeing Lan Wangji in such a daze, Wei Wuxian felt smug, but he said, "Are you too afraid? If you're too afraid, I'll just find someone else. Maybe Mian." Before he could finish his sentence, Wei Wuxian's mouth was once again covered, just as he hoped. When Lan Wangji's tongue extended, Wei Wuxian promptly offered his own, and the soft, delicate tips lightly touched. Lan Wangji's breath seemed to be taken away again. Wei Wuxian chuckled to himself, leaning in further and taking the little tip into his mouth, teasing it wantonly. Just when he was about to revel in his triumphant mischief, it seemed that Lan Wangji got angered, his tongue wrapped in warm breath, nearly aggressively pressed against Wei Wuxian's lips, prying open his teeth, which were caught off guard and making a deep advance. Wei Wuxian found it hard to believe. How did this little old-fashioned suddenly become so... The abrupt intrusion stirred the sweet salivas and increasingly thickening breaths within his mouth. Feeling uncomfortable and stifled, Wei Wuxian let out several muffled protests, his nasal sounds sticky and damp. To Lan Wangji's ears, Wei Wuxian's muffled protests sounded like intentional enticing, provoking another round of fierce attacks. After being kissed for only a short while, Wei Wuxian became completely limp from head to toe, nearly sliding down the wall. Lan Wangji firmly pressed his waist against him, belly to belly, pushing him back up. Then, a knee slowly pressed against the inside of his thigh, rubbing back and forth a few times, pinning him securely to the wall. After kissing for a while, as if it wasn't enough, Lan Wangji pulled Wei Wuxian off the wall, into his arms, locked one hand around his slim waist, and cupped his jaw with the other, continuing to kiss him intensely. As they parted, it was as if Lan Wangji wanted to leave a mark of his own, gently biting the corner of Wei Wuxian's lips, embedding a faint white tooth mark into the slightly swollen red flesh. Wei Wuxian hissed softly, a sound of dissatisfaction escaping from his nose. After being teased and tormented by Lan Wangji for so long, Wei Wuxian felt weak and unsteady, swaying as he tried to move. Lan Wangji supported him by the waist. I don't need your help. Wei Wuxian's cheeks flushed a slight shade of red. In the haze of their intimate moment, the feeling of weakness faded, replaced by a sense of indignation at being overpowered. Wei Wuxian placed a hand on Lan Wangji's chest, giving a slight push. To his surprise, Lan Wangji wasn't as composed as he seemed. He wavered under the push, showing that his stance wasn't so steady after all. Through the thin fabric of Lan Wangji's clothing, Wei Wuxian could feel his frighteningly rapid heartbeat, betraying his usually calm and collected demeanor, only his slightly tousled hair giving away the intensity of the moment. Noticing Lan Wangji's outward fierceness but inner weakness, Wei Wuxian instantly regained his playful demeanor, steadying himself and looking into those eyes, gently warmed by the faint firelight. He lightly scratched Lan Wangji's chin with his fingertips and teased, "Little old-fashioned? How about we kiss like this every night from now on? Is that okay?" Lan Wangji seemed taken aback by this unexpected question, momentarily lost in thought. Suddenly he grasped Wei Wuxian's restless hand, his expression becoming very serious. "Okay." The two of them walked out from behind the wall with their hands held, leaving Nie Huaisang stunned. Wei Wuxian sent Lan Wangji off and waved to him, saying, "I'm going down the mountain with Jiang Cheng and the others for a meal. I'll come find you tonight." The three of them watched as Lan Wangji walked away. Jiang Cheng said, "I thought your life was in danger." Wei Wuxian, with his hands behind his head, replied casually, "It was a trivial matter. No need for such a fuss. See, this is what you call the art of managing the husband." Jiang Cheng raised his hand and closed Nie Huaisang's gaping mouth. Nie Huaisang swallowed a big gulp of air, coughed for a moment, and then asked, "Brother Wei, how exactly did you manage it?" Wei Wuxian replied, "One must yield to capture, and capture by yielding." The same words, repeated in a serious manner but in reverse order. He spoke as if he had everything well under control, as if he had foreseen it all. But in reality, it was just hindsight wisdom. Previously, Wei Wuxian genuinely didn't think that Lan Wangji liked him. Unexpectedly, events took a strange turn, leading both of them to express their feelings for each other. He would have to sincerely apologize to Mian Mian later. Jiang Cheng frowned and rolled his eyes at him, saying, "What else can you amount to? Always either flirting here or there. Teasing everyone around, be careful that one day you might face the consequences." Nie Huaisang was utterly confused, but after pondering for a moment, Wei Wuxian hooked his arm around Nie Huaisang's shoulder and said, "Let's go, down the mountain, I'm treating." Ever since Lan Wangji's "okay," each night before going to sleep, the two would spend some time kissing. After the kiss, Lan Wangji would always pull Wei Wuxian into his embrace for a while. At first, Wei Wuxian behaved himself, simply hugging Lan Wangji, and occasionally rubbing their cheeks together. Later, as he grew bolder, his paws would start to explore, wandering over Lan Wangji's body. Gradually, his hands found their way under Lan Wangji's clothes, leading to accelerated heartbeats and disordered breaths for both of them. Lan Wangji caught his unruly hands, and though Wei Wuxian rubbed against him with a soft, pleading voice, he remained unmoved. With an ironclad sense, Lan Wangji lifted him and placed him on the other side of the bed, arranging him into a proper sleeping position. After blowing out the red candle, the two of them peacefully fell asleep. But of course, Wei Wuxian had no intention of letting things remain peaceful. At an age full of vigor and desire, having finally kissed with Lan Wangji and sleeping in a bed with him every night, his thoughts had long since strayed into less innocent territory. Yet, whether intentionally or not, Lan Wangji always stopped him at the critical moment, leaving Wei Wuxian unable to take things further. This left him deeply puzzled. Just what was Lan Zhan thinking? Their kisses were tender and passionate, and Wei Wuxian refused to believe that Lan Wangji didn't have any desire of his own. With such intense chemistry and the long, quiet nights, it would have been all too easy for something to happen.